Okay, so in light of what we've discussed last time about author's purpose, we will now proceed to the next lesson. But let's start with this picture. So let's answer the three questions. So, what is the picture about? What is the picture suggesting about the two brands? And what are the clues that help you identify the message? So, pause the video and write your answers on the bell ringer notebook, okay? So, just like ads, the authors reveal their intentions through their writing. And as readers, we have to learn how to identify the author's viewpoint in different kinds of texts, particularly nonfiction texts or informational texts. So, today we will try to identify an author's opinion in writing. So, when we say author's viewpoint, the author's viewpoint is the author's feelings, attitude, or beliefs about a topic or idea. So, how do we determine the author's viewpoint? So, in order to understand the author's purpose and viewpoint, we have to learn how to identify his or her explicit and implicit reasons. So, take note of those terms and to check whether there is bias in his or her writing. A writer's purpose may be clearly and directly stated in the text, or can also be indirectly stated. So, when an author's statement is directly stated, we call it an explicit statement. And if the author is just hinting on what his intentions are, that's what we call an implicit statement. So, to give a good definition for explicit reasoning, explicit reasoning refers to statements, arguments, or points that are clearly stated and straightforward, leaving no need for inference or interpretation. The author's viewpoint is directly presented, making it easy for readers to identify the claim or opinion. So we have a statement here. The company promised that the new plant would bring jobs to the area, but many locals feel it's a shame that it's also causing noise and pollution. So if we look at this highlighted part of the sentence, this statement explicitly states the information that there is a company that will be building a plant that would bring jobs to the area. So explicit statements or explicit reasoning is somewhat informative. So, what are the guide questions that you need to answer when you're identifying explicit reasoning in a text? So, we just have to um, read these questions and check whether you have this or not in the text that you're reading. So pause the video. And by the way, you also have this entire PowerPoint presentation on your Google Classroom. Moving on, let's talk about implicit reasoning. So, like what I've said, if explicit reasoning is a detailed or a direct statement of the author's ideas or opinions, implicit reasoning is different. So, implicit reasoning is when an author gives implied or suggested hints, or what we call assumptions, their viewpoint rather than stating it directly. It requires readers to interpret subtle clues, tone, or word choices to understand the underlying message. So, we're still using the same statement from the previous slide. So, we know, according to the statement, that there is a company that promised that a new plant will bring jobs to the area. But if we look at the second part of the statement, but many locals feel it's a shame that it's also causing noise and pollution. If you look at the encircled um, phrase, many locals feel it's a shame. Um, this phrase implies the author's critical perspective, suggesting that the drawbacks may outweigh the advantages. So the author here is not directly saying what he thought about the new plant. So he used the terms it's a shame, many locals. So basically, he's not getting straight to the point. All right. So other questions, guide questions that will help you identify implicit reasoning are the following. So just pause for a minute and then read. Alrighty? So let's practice. On your notebook, I want you to read and try to identify whether the statements are explicit or implicit. Just write the answer on your bell ringer notebook. All right. So the first statement is implicit. So instead of just saying the company is firing people, so the statement is like downgrading the harsh reality that there will be layoffs. So implicit. Number two, so this one is explicit because, well, it's direct. The new policy is unfair and discriminatory. Explicit. And then number three, she's always late, but I guess that's just her style. So this is an implicit statement. So the the writer is not going straight to the point, still giving some opinions. But if the author said that she's always late, then this statement will be explicit. All right? So let's now move to the author's bias. So talking about implicit reasoning, um, reasoning may show what the author feels about certain subjects. So a writer's viewpoint may also be influenced by feelings or emotions, potentially clouding their objectivity on a particular subject. So this is what we call the author's bias. So remember, in an informational text, our goal is to be informative, persuasive, but we, as a writer, should be using real, credible evidences. And as readers, we should learn how to identify whether something is objective or being subjective. So, learning the author's bias or learning how to identify the author's bias is key towards discerning the credibility or the trustworthiness of a text. So here are the factors that shows the author's bias. By the way, for the author's bias, an author may be biased for a topic, meaning the author is in favor of a topic, issue, or subject, or the author could be biased against, or the author might not be in favor of a text, a topic, or an issue that he or she is talking about. So here are the factors that may show the author's bias. Okay, commercial. So here are the factors. So you want to check the diction or the word choice of the writer or the author. So if the author is in favor of a topic, he will probably be using euphemism. Euphemism is a process where mild terms are given to harsh concepts. Say, for example, instead of saying um, there will be lots of layoffs, the company might will just say, "Oh, we're just um, downgrading or downsizing." On the other hand, when an author is not in favor or biased against the topic, he or she will do the other way around. He will use dysphemism. He will be using harsh words for mild ideas. So, exaggeration, overstatement. So, these are the you have these are the things that you have to watch out. And then the tone. When you read the text, is the text or the author confident or promotional of the topic? Then that could mean the author is biased for that topic. On the other hand, if the author sounds like he's dismissive, she is dismissive or condescending, negative towards the topic and to those who support that idea, then the author must be biased against or not in favor of a topic. If the author is selecting information, cherry picking, or the context is not complete and there is lack of diversity on a topic, say for example that illustration a while ago about the sodas. So it's just Pepsi and Coke. There are no other sodas. So that's also a hint that the author is being biased. Framing is another factor, emphasizing benefits if he's biased for that topic, or emphasizing disadvantages if he's biased against the topic. If he is biased against the topic, he will probably oversimplify. No, if he's biased against something, he will oversimplify issues. And the last one is omissions. So when we say omission, it's leaving out information. So just like cherry picking, if you feel that it's not, the text is not acknowledging the other key aspects or key points of a topic, then probably the author is leaving out information. So you can pause this and read it. So I want you to to observe this on the text, articles, speech, or editorials that we will be reading up um, after this topic. So always look at the factors. So let's practice. So I have here three statements. Identify, this is what you're going to do. Identify the issue that's being talked about in the statement, and then write whether the author is biased for or biased against the topic. Go. So here are the answers. For number one, the issue is school uniforms, and the statement is biased against it. Number two, the issue is immigration, and the statement is biased for immigration. And number three, so this is a bit tricky, mental health awareness campaign stigmatize mental illness. So actually, the issue is mental health awareness, and the statement is biased against it. Why? Because of the word stigmatized mental illness. So, accuracy and fairness is vital in informational texts. Writers must strive for accuracy and fairness to maintain credibility in presenting ideas and information. Identifying the author's purpose and viewpoints is crucial for critical thinking, effective reading, and informed decision making, allowing readers to evaluate information credibility and recognize bias. Mastering this skill enhances media literacy, academic research, and professional decision making. So, thanks for listening, guys. And our independent practice will be done on Friday. Thank you.